absolutely didn't, is unrelatable to taking a flatbed and putting it on the cab and chassis of a regular pickup truck. It just doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, so you got to compare apples to apples, not apples and oranges on that.
I understand. The life expectancy on the box, if you break it out, it's roughly $5,200 a year over a 20-year lifespan. So you're looking at $5,200 a year on the expected 20-year life expectancy on this unit. Plus, like Mr. Schiff said, this has our refrigerator, temperature, climate control, and it has
the box. I think the box you got in there, I mean, I'm not opposed to the box. I think the box would be great. It's at 200,000 miles, you're gonna take the box and buy another brand new truck.
And that truck's gonna roll into the system, either in the road department or as a fire unit or something. I mean, we're not throwing it away. Mr. Jones, you had a question?
I had two, if I may.
Okay.
Why the 450 over the 350?
350s and have GVW for when we recycle it back out.
And also, what's your projected time frame for the 200,000 miles?
Roughly, we're between 3 and 4 years. That's what we do. Because you also have to take the hours into consideration, because every hour is equivalent to 30 miles on the odometer. So there's other factors you take into consideration.
So if it sits on the scene and runs for 6 hours, that's where you factor in your hours.
Yes. So we have
Not
to
necessarily 200,000 miles.
well, we're working at the 300,000 odometer reading, but that truck, after Charlie and I, we want to try and keep sway away from having the first response unit at 200,000 miles. When this receives 200,000 miles, it'll go into reserve status. You know, just keep on up and down. So you put a new truck in service, that truck with the highest mileage goes down to reserve unit. Similar to exactly how we do our current transport unit stock at this time.
Mr. Witt?
Questions. How often do are your ambulances or your supervisor trucks used to fight fires?
Every day.
Every day.
There's firemen, fire call, fire related incident. It could be every day. And John McDonald. We had a success story with John McDonald, and we've had several of them where we've had our crews on scene prior to a fire company arrive on scene in their bunker gear, air packs, and ready to go, just waiting on the engine. So we manage a dual response service in this county. It's a combination volunteer career service in this county, and we manage that operational component.
The other thing is
you said 2 questions. 3 questions.
Yeah, well, the second question. No, I haven't given you the second question yet.
Okay.
You're outfitting a truck over in Gainesville right now?
That's how radios are being installed.
What kind of truck is that?
It's the same truck as this, similar to this one.
No, supervisors did?
Yes.
When was that purchased?
That was in last year's budget approval.
When did you actually buy it though?
Well, we cut the check right before December 30th. Well, I had to be before then. September 28th, I think, is when the check was cut.
And that's another $142,000 purchase.
But it takes, we have to plan appropriately for timing, because just like our 2 transport units, we ought to reorder them when the new budget year comes along, because we don't see those for 6 months later after the purchase. You can't wait till after all the equipment is dried up and used up and scramble to find funds to replace 2 and 3 vehicles at one time. So we have a scheduled replacement program, so we're not running into problems where we have several vehicles at 300,000 miles, 400,000 miles, having to scramble for repairs, having to scramble to find replacements for them.
And
This is a planning process.
all of this goes back several years ago. I distinctly remember us being almost without med units, wore out. The sheriff's office without patrol vehicles. We set into place a replacement program. What David is doing today is nothing more than the program that was initiated a few years ago to save all of these one-time shots at several $100,000 at the time. And in today's cost, things are going up more and more regularly, more than we would like them to be. But for $38,650 for a cab and chassis for a truck, that ain't bad.
I just bought one, I can tell you it ain't bad.
The equivalent Dodge is $43,235. To the equivalent Dodge.
Mr. Sheffield, do you have a question?
Is this replacing a truck or are we adding to the fleet?
It'll be replacing the rolling stock. something, our next vehicle, we're going to another staff vehicle or something else, and it'll be a vehicle coming off our assets.
Okay, and the transport units, as Mr. Stevens was talking about, when they moved the box over to a new cab and chassis, they required a bunch of updating. Is this box gonna fall into that same?
No, so not to that extreme, because when we do our transporting, you have to consider oxygen lines, power lines going to the back of the unit, patient compartment areas that have to be redone. When we redid that one, it was just a significant changeover, but when we just redid our last Sprinter, it was in the vehicle accident, we replaced the chassis on it, and we had a whole brand new unit for expenditures of roughly $70,000. The chassis was 49 and the transfer over was about 30. So, and then when we get ready to start rechasing our Sprinters, we'll start seeing, instead of paying $142,000 a year, we're gonna cut down by about $80,000 or $90,000 a year per unit. So once we start that recycle process of our current transport modules, we'll see that too. So by the proper planning, we're able to forecast out, we'll start seeing a lower capital expenditure on our transport units in the future. Same with this situation. And when we get instead of buying a $140,000 truck, we're gonna be buying a $40,000 chassis, depending upon how much it costs to re-chassis.
Okay, and speaking of the spreaders, if I remember right, which is risky, but when we got the Mercedes, you said they were better, cheaper to maintain than the Fords. They
Correct.
don't make a chassis for this particular.
Correct. Mercedes does not make a chassis for this application,
Okay.
and Mercedes also do 10,000 mile intervals on their oil changes, where Ford is 5,000 to 6,000 mile intervals.
And you're replacing the Chevrolets that you have, is that what this vehicle's replacing?
This vehicle replacement is one of the Chevrolets, yes. And that Chevrolet will go down to another
What was the cost of another Chevrolet like what you already had?
50,000.
50,000 versus,
Is that the whole truck?
Yes, it's a whole truck. But we're going to a different vehicle for application of our service, not county. The application is what we're looking at.
so the one for $50,000 won't fulfill the need?
No, it has not fulfilled the need, that's why we're moving to this.
There's not enough room in it?
It's the operational component of how we operate on scenes and how the supervisors operate. It doesn't meet the needs of our command staff and operations, how we currently operate.
Mr. Jones,
Can you be more specific?
Yeah, really, what, it's not.
Can Mr. Gold be more specific? This is how it doesn't fit the needs.
What needs
Currently,
not-
this vehicle will carry one compartment will have complete set of 24 spare oxygen cylinders, 16 spare SCBA cylinders. It'll have your MCI stuff in it. It'll have spare your narcotics, your drugs, refrigerators, your rehab equipment for your water, for your coolers.
to a greater capacity to haul supplies,
Very capacity, easier to get to.
easy to access.
As you've seen in the current model we use, this will be easier access for what's needed. Like I said, we only one person on that truck, so as you're trying to access stuff, it can be very cumbersome, and we want to make the efficiency of our service as efficient as possible.
But for another $100,000.
Mr. Witt,
Last time, you pulled all these trucks off the agenda of the previous meeting, you had concerns, you told me you had concerns about the amount of money that was being spent. At a time when other departments were being asked to tighten the belt. Here we just discussed, we've got $240,000 worth of trucks he's bought. Neither of these trucks are ambulances, they're supervisor's trucks. Do you have any?
where did you come up with 240,000?
Well, there's one over in Gainesville right now that's
That was
being-
bought last budget year.
We're still talking about taxpayer dollars.
And these are all within my budget line, and these were planned purchases. This is all coming out of the fire assessment money and the EMS assessment money. So there's no additional funds. This is part of the plan of our department and planned purchasing, so we're
How
not,
did the money get there?
yes, sir. We're not asking for any more money from the general fund. This is part of the public safety budget that we planned for years ahead to purchase this equipment. So it stays current. Charlie Bedford and I are scrambling to try and get vehicles up and running at 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, when Charlie's off work coming on Saturdays to get our trucks up and running.
I'm not saying don't replace your trucks.
No, I was just explaining to Mr. where the.
Were you looking at me and I mean,
It's emergency services is what it is, and it comes out of the budget, so it's no money that we don't already have budgeted for and planned to purchase.
Ms. Gaither?
I'm just sorry.
I was asking John for that, to answer that question.
Ms.
Do we
Gaither?
have enough firefighters, personnel and everything? Are they properly paid to run these trucks?
Yes, ma'am.
If I ask them, will they answer the same?
That's all relevant to your, to somebody's opinion.
Gone out, conversations.
Find anybody that thinks they're making enough money.
There's never any question about transmissions, road repair, drag lines, and everything else.
I can't answer that, sir. I'm just waiting on a motion.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Good question.
We have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'm gonna second it, and I'm gonna tell you what. For the person. I don't really care if people get mad or not. I'd give you $150,000 for another animal. My young got hung in that combine, all right?
Okay,
And you damn sure can't put a bed on a Volkswagen.
okay,
Load it up down the highway.
okay.
When this lady right here was sick, I'd have given another $150,000 for them to save her life.
Okay.
We already got it in the budget, we've already approved it, we need to put it on the road.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Cannon?
Mr. Chairman, is the Department of Public Safety supposed to operate on the assessment funds?
They are operating on the assessment program, yes, ma'am.
Entirely on the assessment funds?
Yes.
That is the goal.
In which case, Mr. Knowles' remark that he didn't ask for additional county funds, my answer to that is, I should hope not.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Jones?
I wanted to say, Mr. Joyner, that I completely agree with everything you said, but I wanted to make it clear it's not an ambulance. It's a supervisor, non-transport truck. Just want to make that clear.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. Thank you. 3-2.
Charlie, thank you for your.
Joyner, Meeks, John Meeks and Stevens in favor. Rod Meeks and Willie Rooks opposed.
I think that we're gonna spend that amount of money that we need for ambulance.
Buy another ambulance, I don't take care of that, if we're gonna spend that much.
Ms. Gaither?
Shouldn't we concentrate on getting the firemen a contract?
That's currently in negotiation.
What did the lady in?
Shouldn't we worry about getting the fireman a contract? Miss?
Morning, it is still morning.
It is still morning.
The first item that I have has to do with the Restore Act. As you all probably know, the federal court and the parties in the federal court case determining the amount of fines along with a lot of other things. They entered into a consent decree between the defendant, all the states, and the U.S. government. The consent decree is open for comment until December 4th, and my item relates to submitting comment. The amount for what's called the Pot 1 money that is in the consent decree, my calculations, first of all, they're only gonna do $5.5 billion in that Pot 1, and then the amount to come to Levy County is $2,998,380. The consent decree also spreads that out over payments of 15 years. 14 of the 15 is the same amount. For some reason, year 2 of the payments is less. The 14 payments would be approximately $206,000 and change. The one lower year is $103,000 and change. The Gulf Consortium and certain other counties are planning on submitting comments, and their comments are relating to the ability to finance, that's just real distraction, you're trying to present something, the ability to finance and bond these funds because it's coming out over such a long period of time. The Treasury rules do not provide for that, so the federal government hasn't considered that we'll have to be financing these projects. So their comments are asking the consent decree to deal with that issue. My intention would also be my request is to authorize the chair to execute and submit comments that support those entities. Their comments are gonna look about the same, and the draft for the Gulf Consortium is there in your packet. But also to add on for counties like Levy, that 2.9 million is really, in the grand scheme of things, it's not very much money, and you're probably gonna have a really hard time bonding that. Your costs to do that, it won't make it worth your while. Another issue is the administrative costs under Restore Act. You're only allowed 3% for administrative costs. You spread that money out over 15 years, and you're gonna have to dip in your own pocket to do the administration of a 15-year program. So I would like to include a reference to that for Levy and ask the court to somehow front-end load that 15 years. For the smaller counties, they're gonna end up with small amounts of money like this. They aren't gonna be bondable. They're gonna have high administration costs. Let these smaller counties and smaller amounts go in the first few payments, and then the bigger amounts can wait till later. Propose that as a solution, because they will be looking for solutions. The time frame has been real quick, so I don't have those drafted, but I'm just asking the board to authorize the chair to execute and submit the comments when we get them done, and most of the times they can address that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Witt?
$200,000 a year, some of these projects to be funded with that kind of money, we would have to bond, like the Withlacoochee River cleanup. That's only, $40,000 to $60,000 something, so some of those projects could be paid for out of, if you just got $200,000 a year, right?
Some of them could, yes. But we have
But you want a lump sum.
We have our eye on a different prize, on other prizes, and, yes, sir. I don't know that a lump sum is the proper term, but we'd like to have our money sooner rather than later, instead of, spreading it out over such a long period of time.
And the value of that money drops quickly each year, so what we could pay for with $200,000 this year is not going to be the same even in 2 years, so.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I have is approval of a contract for professional services with the state attorney to prosecute county ordinances. This is, comes out of the original request to do revisions to the noise ordinance. The state attorney, excuse me, the sheriff's office, pardon me, several months ago, I sent them a draft, and we've got the ordinance, and they've gotten their comments back to me. We couldn't make it in time to do the public hearing for today with the advertising requirement. But part of it will be, we'll need a contract with the state attorney to enforce this and other county ordinances. If you choose, the state attorney wanted me to let the board know he would not charge you anything if you had the choice. But however, the statutes require that he charge you, and this is at $50 an hour, and it'll cost us $250 a year for the first year, just kind of ballpark to try and figure out what that $50 an hour is gonna cost, and that's just an estimate, and then future years we'll figure out, based on the past performance, what kind of yearly amount we need.
This is only loud music or,
This-
noise on the.
Yes, sir, the noise ordinance, caused the need for this, but it's not limited to just that
Yes, ma'am.
ordinance. So, but this will allow the state attorney to prosecute those tickets when their citations are not given.
So they're assuming that it's only gonna take 5 hours a year of their time?
For now, that's the assumption. These are not, the noise ordinance, just so you don't know, is not gonna be an easy thing to prosecute. So I don't anticipate a whole lot of cases, because it's not an easy thing, no matter how you write it. It's not easy to prosecute.
Ms. Cannon?
Mr. Chairman, which ordinances are we talking about besides the noise ordinance?
There haven't been any, it's particularly, but if we want to go that route, this, for enforcement, this option will be available.
And if the Attorney General is not charging us, then who gets the $50 an hour?
It's the state
The state
attorney, and if they don't do the work, well, they get the 250 up front, but if they don't do any work, they don't get the $50 an hour.
So, wait a minute, they get 250 up front, and if they never have to prosecute anything, then do we get our money back?
There's no provision to get our money back, he's required to charge us, and that will just reserve us the time and also help pay for his administrative costs. It's not gonna be,
The state's
he's gonna have to do some things to accommodate just having the ability to prosecute these for us.
The state's attorney's office does not want to charge Levy County a penny.
So I hear.
But by the statutes that is there, he has no choice,
I
or
see
she
what
has
you're
no
saying.
choice.
I
That's
appreciate
why
it.
we have this in place right now, or to try to get it in place.
Okay, now, Ms. Brown says that the noise ordinance will be hard to prosecute. Is there any chance you can write the ordinance that will make it easier to prosecute?
It has been written the best way it can to be prosecuted. Noise ordinances are just not easy to prosecute.
You know, and I'll add this to a noise ordinance. Now, I remember several years ago, and I believe you do too, about a gentleman that lived in Morriston that was complaining about a shaving mill that you couldn't even hear from his house. But yet an airplane flying 300 feet above his head, he thought that was totally fine, and you could hear that, but you couldn't hear that shaving mill. But he was complaining about that.
Or the daily trains that ran right behind his
I
home.
hear you.
So, anyway,
CSX like trains.
that's the dilemma with the noise ordinance, how are you gonna make something work or not?
And we have set the public hearing on the ordinance for December 8th.
And I think we've gotten away from the original intent of this noise ordinance. And I think the original intent, if my memory serves me correct, and Mr. Joyner can correct me if I'm wrong, was we weren't worried about manufacturing noise or trains. We were worried about loud and sometimes offensive music. And allowing the law enforcement entity, be it the county or hopefully the city adopts something or has something in place. I think Wilson does already have something in place that's very similar to this, to be able to correct that matter. Hopefully in a positive way, but in a worst case scenario, a negative way, that they have to write someone a ticket or cite them for their crime. So with that being said, I mean, hopefully.
Can you pick and choose, or
Well,
does it have to be noise across the board?
Well, the way it's written, there's certain noises that are omitted. Manufacturing noise and naturally occurring noises are omitted.
And those are already in your ordinance. I
Yes.
left those in. The current exceptions that you have, I left in. And Williston's and Gainesville's actually do not have a specific provision dealing with the problem that Commissioner Joyner raised. They are prosecuting those under just a general provision in their ordinances. So I drafted a specific provision dealing with loud amplified music from
In the public
vehicles.
domain. We're not talking, I don't think this was as aimed at people having loud music at their house as much as it was at the gas station. Or, or at Ralph's or wherever, in a parking lot. So, more than likely, if someone is cited, I would assume that they are going to just pay their ticket and move along. They're not going to go to the Supreme Court with this. In the event that they do want to go to the next level and challenge it, then we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But it's the same thing that could be stated for speeding tickets or any other tickets at any other time you're cited. You always have that right reserved to challenge the authority.
We're targeting loud music, correct?
Yes.
No,
The ordinance does one thing, and that's why I proposed it and I asked y'all to pass it. It gives the sheriff's department teeth, ammunition, or whatever you wanna call it. If a car pulls up to a gas station, Winn-Dixie parking lot, or McDonald's, or your neighbor, they've got music going, and they got wide open 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or your wife and your 5 head of children in a car and they pull up beside you and they're booming with MF this and MF that. That gives the sheriff's department teeth to go up to them and say, cut the damn music, I'm cutting the daggone music down, shut it off. And most of 99.9% of the time, they gonna cut it off. If they don't, that gives the sheriff's department some kind of ammunition or teeth, say, I'm going to step out, let me give you a ticket, and they give me your driver's license. He's got, all it does is just give them some backup. And that's what I'm asking for.
That's what we got done.
Exactly. Now I'll make the motion to pass, or what, as presented by Ms. Annie. Do we have to have a motion, Annie?
Yes, this is a contract. We need-
Yeah.
I don't think we did.
We didn't already have a
No,
motion.
we didn't already have it.
And I'll second Mike's motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Tony?
How does entering into this contract with the state attorney's office prohibit them, or how does it affect the prosecution of Levy County for violation of their ordinances? I.e., the political sign ordinance. So you're saying, by entering into this contract with the state attorney's office to represent you, I can go over next door and I can file charges that I want Levy County prosecuted for not obeying their own ordinance.
For having loud music?
I didn't say anything about loud music, I'm saying political signs. An ordinance that you all had and Mr. Hammond brought up, and we went all through that.
But violations of the political sign ordinance are not against the county, they're against the person whose sign is there.
Okay,
So the county's not doing any violation, the county didn't put the signs there.
okay, so you're saying go after the sign
I'm not
placer?
saying go after anybody.
But you're saying that this is the place to go prosecute this is with the state attorney, because you're entering into an agreement with them to prosecute violations of county ordinances. Is that correct? Correct?
Yes, but it does not mean we're directing them to run out and start prosecuting all the county ordinances.
But if
This
it is-
allows them to do it.
it allows them to do it. Okay, so that means then that they are not prohibited from going against, if someone comes in and has a complaint about a county ordinance, they're gonna go after the county.
Not necessarily. It's just like any criminal complaint, you'll have to take it to them and see what happens. They don't prosecute every complaint that comes to them.
But on her point though, if there's a political sign problem and it violates the county ordinance, and the sheriff's department takes it to the state attorney, they could potentially prosecute their case.
They could.
But not against the county.
Not against the
Not
county,
against the county,
just
no.
against the individual.
Is the state attorney an elected official?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy to hear that.
What did you say, Ms. Cannon? I didn't hear you.
I asked if the state attorney was an elected official.
Oh, yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? All right, we have made it back to our second public comment section. Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Mr. Gaither.
I would like to thank Commissioner Brooks for being at the Veterans Day Parade in Chiefland the other day. She was the only commissioner that showed up.
Anybody else for public comment? Ms. Cannon.
Mr. Chairman, I would like Mr. Norris or your board to tell me why he would not be considered the chairman for the committee that he formed when he is leading that committee.
I will turn that over to legal.
I'm assuming you're basing that question on the article that was in the paper.
I am.
As I explained at the time, and this obviously didn't get through, and this is part of the problem with relying on the newspaper.
But that's why I am doing it here. I don't know what else to do.
The question of who's chairman and who's not chairman really is I'm not sure what the point of the question is. He will lead the meeting. A chairman is a member of the committee. He's not a member of the committee. The reason that this.
Wait a minute, why is Mr. Norris not a member of the committee? That he formed himself.
The idea behind this being a committee subject to the sunshine law, and let me clarify, I am not of the opinion that it is subject to the sunshine law, but mine's not the only opinion. And there are other opinions that say this should be a committee subject to the sunshine law because of the delegation of authority from this board. And that somehow the idea is the authority's been delegated through Mr. Knowles to the committee. He advises the board, he collects the information and assistance from those fire chiefs to make those recommendations to the board. He is not a member of that committee. He uses them to help him make his recommendations. So there really isn't a chairman. They do not vote. There's no one to elect. He just collects information and gets their assistance so he can develop his recommendations. That was definitely not clear, clearly not understood by the article in the paper. That is where the notion comes from, that this is even a sunshine committee.
In addition, he is not a municipal fire chief. He's the county public safety
I
director.
understand that. And I did not question that.
But the question is,
I mean, I didn't
is it
say
even
that.
a committee? That's the question. Are the chiefs and their
that's right.
meetings a committee? Who assigned them to do that?
And that is what there is the gray area about, is that whether they are a sunshine committee or not. I'm of the opinion they are not. But in order to protect this board from complaints that might be filed, that's the next step. There's another thing that was incorrect in the newspaper that said the Attorney General's office contacted Barbara Peterson. The Attorney General's office did not contact Barbara Peterson. Neither Pat Gleason from the Attorney General's office or myself contacted Barbara Peterson. She's from the First Amendment Foundation, which is a watchdog group for sunshine and public records issues. And she contacted the Attorney General's office. I don't know who contacted her. With the current climate that has been happening over the past several years, with some of the watchdog groups, not First Amendment Foundation, they don't imbibe in this, but many do, there are attacks being made, for lack of a better word, against governments for sunshine and public records violations, and these people generate a lot of money because they get attorney fees if there is found a violation. Some of them have generated a great deal of money and set up a business doing this. So in an abundance of caution, Mr. Moody and I got together and said, what's the harm in opening the process? There is no harm. I don't think this board would support closing the doors. So just treat it like a sunshine committee so the entire process is open. So those people, their private conversations now have to be in the public. So that the entire process, that delegation of authority all the way down will be before the public.
If there was no harm to open to the public, why was it closed prior to?
Yes! And the reason it was closed, to my understanding, is because the misrepresentations in the newspaper of inaccurate and incomplete information that was appearing repeatedly, it dampens some of those discussions. People that want to help and do the right thing do not want those misrepresentations and inaccurate information to go out to the public. The public was being misinformed, and that does not serve the purpose of the Sunshine Law.
You said you are attempting to protect this board from complaints. What complaints are you referring to?
A potential complaint, which is one of the next steps of the process after someone contacts the watchdog agencies, somebody else might latch onto it and file a complaint either with the court, with the state attorney, or with the attorney general. Very costly, and to what end? To keep the meeting closed. Why? There's no purpose to that.
Okay, now, has it, to follow on your remarks, has it then been, okay, do this carefully. Do I understand this correctly then, or you tell me what the correct situation is? The fire chiefs that are members of this committee and that work under Mr. Knowles as the Director of Public Safety of this board, do they, because of the Sunshine Law, they are now not permitted to discuss any official business among each other at any time or any place?
They can't discuss the business that might come before that group. And one thing that I clarified to them at the time was they might want to really look at what sort of issues they talk about with that group. If they have concerns within their municipal department that affect only their municipal operations, they might not want to bring that to that group so that they can freely talk to each other. That group is for countywide operations. And then if they want to leave their municipal things among themselves so they can consult with each other outside the public meetings, then that would be acceptable. It's just the countywide operations that Mr. Knowles is looking for the guidance on. So that's the purpose that they're there.
Okay, now pretend I am one of the fire chiefs. Please, board, I'm not, please, just for argument's sake. Why am I prohibited to make, or better yet, am I prohibited to make suggestions to this board in a board meeting, for example?
They're not prohibited at all. They're free to come to the board and talk to the board anytime they want.
And I can make suggestions regarding a public safety issue.
Yes, ma'am.
Under the Sunshine Law.
Yes, ma'am. It only prevents them from talking to each other outside the publicly noticed meeting. They can come to this board anytime they want and present their own recommendations.
Without fear of retaliation by the department head.
And what retaliation can the department, he
I
didn't work
would
for him.
hopefully not want to find out.
Ms. Tony?
Is the transportation board subject to the Sunshine Laws?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Is not Ms. Cannon a member of the transportation board?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mean, yes, ma'am.
So
My
you
apologies.
should be pretty well advised on what the rule, trust me, Mr. Grant and I found out what the Sunshine Laws mean to the Planning Commission several years ago. So if you're a member of a county board, you should know.
I am, and ma'am, I haven't violated any Sunshine Laws.
Well, neither did we.
I'm happy to hear that. And I was just trying to get answers, Ms. Collins. And I am grateful to observe that I have received things. And I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Witt?
I could correct a lot of things that Ms. Brown said, but I would like to correct one particular fact there. I first contacted the Attorney General's office about this meeting, and Pat Gleason at the Attorney General's office said she was gonna contact Barbara Peterson. She did, and Barbara Peterson got back to me, and that's the way it worked.
Okay.
That wasn't the information I had from Pat.
All right, let's move on to something that's more positive. I'd like to recognize Mr. Littman, who's here with us today, even though he's not really an elected official, he is an official of the city of Wilson. Anything going on good in Wilson?
I'm elected every payday.
Evaluated and
That's right.
I got chastised because I didn't recognize the sheriff last time he was here, so now I have a note on my agenda to recognize the sheriff, and he's not here, so I'm gonna chastise him for not being here today.
There you
go. Moving on, I have a letter I'd like to read, and I'd like to say a few comments, and I'll then open the floor to anybody else who has any comments. It's dated November 13, 2015, is addressed to Mr. Moody, County Coordinator. Mr. Moody is with heavy heart that I write this letter to tender my resignation from Levy County Road Department effective Friday, November 27, 2015. I've been given the opportunity to pursue a new and different career challenge, and I feel the time is right to do so. I will begin employment with Levy County School Board, where I will serve as Director of Transportation. I cannot say enough great things about the people I've been blessed to work with at the Road Department and the other county departments. I thank you for your leadership. The personal and professional advice that you've given me over the years has helped to shape me as a person that I have. The personal and professional advice you've given me over the years has helped to shape me as a person and have a successful career within the department. I would also like to thank the commissioners who have allowed me to serve the citizens in this capacity for the last 29 plus years. My plan is to work every day for the next 2 weeks to ensure the transition is smooth. Once again, thanks to all for the continued support, and may God be a blessing to us all. It's signed by Bruce Greenlee. Bruce approached me with this 2 Mondays ago after a city council meeting. He told me the opportunity to change jobs, and albeit I wasn't happy, as a friend, I recommended that he pursue that. That's what he chose to do. He has been an asset to this road department for as long as I can remember, and he has been a leader within the community, and I don't mean necessarily just as an elected official with the city of Bronson, but he's been a football coach and a mentor to many young men in the community. And I'll tell you, since I've been elected, he has been has been nothing but good to me. Has always been helpful, and always had an answer, and has went out of his way to make things happen. And so I appreciate his years of service, both before and after I became an elected official myself. So Bruce, personally on a personal level, a friend level, I wish you all the success in the world. I know that things change, and we have to adapt, and that's what we'll try to do. But I do want to thank you again for your years of service, and look forward to working with you in the future in your new role. Anybody else?
Yep. Bruce, it's been an honor and a pleasure working with you. It really has, and I hope that moving on to the school board is what it is that you need, and I hope it finishes out your career. And I hope you got a lot of years left in you for that. Appreciate working with you.
I'm gonna say mine from the commissioner's comment.
Bruce, you can't leave until those 3 projects are finished.
And we're not telling you which 3 they are.
He already knows, I've already talked to him.
Bruce and I talked about this in the office, and it was pretty difficult. But as we said, he's not going far. He'll be right there. He'll still assist us as we need it. Also, I think that position he's going to, we'll have him serving, if we activate the EOC and things like that. I'm sure he'll be part of that. I think the person that he's replacing over there actually was the vice chair of the Transportation Disadvantage Board, I believe. But I might have misspoke, but I think it was.
Pretty much spot
So
on.
I think Bruce is still gonna be active. That's just his nature, to be part of the community, and I think like I say, he's still right there. He'd just be
working under different leadership and all of that, but he'll still be part of the Levy County family.
We've worked together almost 17 years, and I appreciate everything that you've done. And I'll still be able to find you.
That was what he didn't wanna hear.
Thank you, Bruce. I guess Mr. Levy, you know.
I feel anything to say.
I just wanna say thank you very much, for what you've done for Levy County. Without a doubt is working for the county and seeing the role that Bruce played, you know, it's just, he was a phenomenal employee in Levy County. I just thank you for what you've done.
It still is till the 27th.
Well, yeah, it still is till the 27th, but, I mean, I guess all of y'all know, but where Bruce started at to where Bruce is today is, I mean, that's just something that somebody, you know, dreams of doing, is starting at the bottom and going to the top. And I just wanna say thank you for where you're at and what you're doing.
Ms. Cannon?
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to say that as a citizen of this county, I'm sad to see him leave as county employee. At the same time, I'm happy and delighted to hear that he is finding greener pastures, and hopefully they will stay green and not go in the first drought. And and what the county is concerned, I am hoping we can find a replacement that is, if it's half as good as he was, we will do that. So,
Big shoes to fill, for sure.
yes.
No doubt.
The timing didn't work out just right for today, but December the 8th, I would like to have Bruce come back and let's recognize him and all of his achievements and send him off like that. The time just didn't fit into everything to have it all prepared today.
That sounds good.
All right, moving on. Commissioner reports. Commissioner Joyner.
Bruce, all I can say is you're one hell of a man. I couldn't tell you your lady. I've been with you, rode with you, talked with you. It's amazing. Whoever gets in your footsteps, better vote back. That's all I can say. We've got to live with each other. And I appreciate you very much. Okay. Ms. Lilly, I want to thank you for representing commissioners at the parade, the chieftain. But we sit right here on this board and get ridiculed by the public every day for what we do or don't do. And I would say all five of us get probably 95% of this board. For 40 years, I worked away from my family. No holidays, no nothing. And if I can go out of town, if my wife can get off work and I can go out of town with her for one day and one weekend and miss one parade, I don't think I should get ridiculed for it. And I'm not going to sit here and take it. Now, and I commend the commission for doing as much as they can, but we get holidays piled on top of us and everything else. And I got a commissioner that went with me to the Veterans Day Memorial Service in Williston. And I thank him very much for it. And my wife went. But I am not going to put my family in second anymore when it comes to a parade. And I don't care what it is, the veterans, I contribute to Wounded Warriors, I go to every Veterans Day thing that I can, and I'm not going to sit here and get ridiculed for missing one parade, because I can be with my family. And if that's what it takes, piss on the fire and call in the dogs, and hunt's over with.
We'll say it night.
All right. You can follow
now be a pie auction in Cedar Key, November the 23rd. It starts at 6 o'clock. If you don't cook, like I don't cook, you
Don't have
can
time to cook.
you can come get your sweets there.
Who's the benefit, Ms. Levy?
The Cedar Key Junior class.
That's on Monday, Ms. Lily?
Yeah.
Monday before Thanksgiving. Is that it, Ms. Lowell?
That's all I have.
Commissioner Stevens?
It was good to be with Commissioner Joyner at the Veteran Celebration in Williston at the Linear Park, in the gazebo in front of the Ivy House. The city of Williston done a fantastic job, as they do every year. Mr. Littman was there and done real well. He had his best looking lady with him, and she kept him straight. And that's all I got to say.
Commissioner Meeks? Well, November 21st and 22nd, the English Yankeetown area is having their Seafood and Art Festival and Quilt Show. Also November 21st, Two Hawk Hammock Aquatic Dream in Williston from 12 p.m. to 7. November 27th is the kickoff weekend of the Kirby Express, Kirby Farms, go through December. November 27th, Cedar Key is having their annual Christmas tree lighting. December 5th, the Fanning Springs Chamber of Commerce will be holding their Festival of Lights, and I believe that's when they're also going to do the duck race and the parade. I think they're bringing back the parade this year, which is exciting because that was always a highlight whenever I was a kid, to see the boats all lit up on the river.
You say the 5th, huh?
The 5th, yes, sir. And I think that's pretty much an all-day event, so going into the evening. And finally, December 12th, the Sons of AMVETS Post here in Bronson, Florida will be holding the Wreaths Across America program at the Rosemary Cemetery here in Bronson. The wreaths will be laid, or the program will start at noon, and the wreaths will be laid immediately following. There's 192 cemeteries involved this year in Wreaths Across America, and whenever we started this project in 2009, there were 4. We were at Rosemary Cemetery, Bronson, 4. The Bushnell Cemetery, a cemetery, another national cemetery in the Panhandle, 1 private cemetery, and us. And so now it's grown tremendously. Something that's near and dear to my heart. I participate in it every year. We had a fundraiser that I didn't tell anybody about last Saturday, and a car show at the AMVETS Post. So if anybody attended, thank you, and if you missed it, I'm sorry. It just slipped my mind. One other final thing, I'm not going to get as deep as Mike, but I would like to point something out, because I know it probably won't be relayed, this message won't be relayed properly, but whenever we talk about purchases and vehicles and things of this nature, we talk about wants versus needs, and it was brought to my attention that there was $200,000 worth of vehicles that were on the agenda to be purchased a few weeks ago, and myself, as well as some other commissioners, had some questions about that, and they were removed. In the subsequent time, I spoke with Chief Knowles, and I told him my feelings. I don't know what everybody else told him, but my feelings were that we didn't need to purchase all these vehicles, that we only needed to purchase what was essential. That man gets paid to run our Department of Public Safety, and in my opinion, he does a good job. He may not be the most popular man in the county. He has been the target of much criticism. But whenever he came to me and he said, "John, we need this supervisor vehicle, and here are the reasons why. This is going to move forward with our program into the future. Long after your tenure here as Commissioner John Meeks, and probably long after David's tenure here as Director of Public Safety." Hopefully that's more long than it is short. But at the end of the day, we are all at the mercy of the public. So I said, I didn't feel that we needed a fire truck. I feel that we did need a supervisor vehicle, and the time frame that's involved with purchasing these vehicles and getting them roadworthy so that they are able to go into work was essential. And so that's why this purchase was brought back to the board today, in my opinion. It was a lot of money, there's no doubt about that, but I will not bow to any sort of political pressure to not stay in the course. And if we feel that, if other people feel that that purchase was out of line, then I regrettably apologize to them. But I feel that it is part of the bigger plan and that we need to move forward. And this nitpicking and trying to point out all the bad, nobody ever wants to look to the good. We really need to take a step back and look at the big picture of things in Levy County. We're going in the right direction in all of our departments, and we're going in the right direction with a lot of things that we're doing and accomplishing. We're receiving grants, we're working for the public, we're keeping taxes down, and then whenever you have something come to you today, like this deal with Bruce, puts things on a much more personal level. Bruce is not only an employee, but he was a friend, and so, whenever you think about things like that, it's more important than buying trucks and spending money and doing what we think is right or wrong. It's about the personal relationships that you build and you develop with people, and that's one thing I'll take from this job, whether I get to do it for another year, another day, or another 20 years. So I will not apologize for supporting my department heads and supporting what they think is the proper thing to do. Mr. Grant.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. As many of you in here also probably remember, I remember when there was no medical units in this county at all on account of the location of the hospitals. That was prior to Chief Knowles being here, and I think he's one good administrator.
Well, thank you.
I think it's well said, I'm chairman.
So anyway, anybody else got anything?
Yeah,
One quick thing.
I do too, and
Mr. Lippman, the light up Williston, I forgot to ask you, what day is that on?
I was just looking, I believe it's the 6th, but I don't have it on my
that
calendar,
Sunday?
surprisingly.
the 6th is on a Sunday.
Now, then it isn't the 6th, then it must be the Saturday.
The 5th?
Hold on, Miss Jones probably has it. No pressure.
Yeah.
Take your time,
All right, stand by. Mike, what you got?
I just wanted to know if somebody got the dates for parades and Chiefland and Williston Christmas parades, so we can write them down. Anybody got the dates for them?
English is 12.
Angels, I got that one, I think the 12th, yeah.
December
Let's see,
the
December
12th.
5th, light up Williston for Christmas.
What day, Ms. Jones?
December 5th,
December 5th,
yes. December 12th is the Chiefland Festival and Cedar Key Christmas in the Park.
And English is also the 12th.
Yes,
well, we've got about 3 or 4 on the same day.
yes.
Move the Christmas parade.
Or you can go to the Cedar Key tree lighting on the 27th.
And, got another question, what's our next meeting date?
December 8th.
8th.
Alright. What are we gonna do in between time, between November 27th and December 8th with Bruce's position being vacated? How do we need to bridge that gap?
I was expecting to get some feedback from y'all, but at the time, Alice and Casey and Jesse and Kelly, they'll continue on as we have been going. Now Bruce is gonna work with us. We're gonna sit down together with the people out there and make sure we've got a plan, make sure that we know what all Bruce has on his plate, on his calendar to follow up. We've got a meeting, Thursday, I think, November 19th, trying to get certified for the LAP certifications to receive federal funds to try to get the sidewalk project out here going. It's a different pot of money,
Right.
but we got to be lap certified and all of that. So those kind of things we're gonna continue on. We're just gonna have to. Everybody's gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit.
So we don't need to have an interim at this point in time?
Because of union things and all that, I wouldn't think so in this case, because you get into working out a classification and all that, and I don't know who that would be. So Kelly right now is just gonna have to pick it up, and with the assistance of Jesse
and Casey. And like I say, Alice has been doing, y'all know, she's been out there through Justin and then through Bruce, and so she kind of knows all of the things that are going with DOT and all of the projects that's on the horizon there. But the people that's got the boots on the ground, so to say, they're just gonna have to take up a big load.
And I'm sure Wilford tossed his 2 cents in too.
Well, he will, yeah. That's what I mean, we'll be doing more in the office overseeing and trying to make sure we don't miss something.
I
Or
don't think
have something
we
get delayed.
need to be rushing into anything.
No, ma'am, I don't think so, and like I said earlier, Bruce is just across the road. If we need him, I'm sure that Mr. Hastings and that board will not, you know, say one moment that he can't come over there and show us something, or we can talk to him on the phone and things like that. So as bad as it is, we're still in a good situation, I think, to carry on and go forward.
Ms. Tony?
Since you're all mentioning dates, the Levy County Historical Society will be sponsoring a Florida Authors and Books Festival on Saturday, December 12th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Cedar Key RV Resort in Sumner. There's a beautiful conference center there, and we're going to take advantage of it. We're going to have authors from all over the state, and it's a wonderful opportunity to do some early Christmas shopping for those Florida history lovers on your shopping list.
Ms. Cannon?
Mr. Chairman, what does LAP stand for?
What does LAP stand for, Freddie? It's an
That's where you lay your
acronym.
hands when you're sitting down.
It's an acronym for something to do with federal funding, federal policy as far as you don't have discriminatory hiring practices, the people you employ or people you contract with don't, you follow all the guidelines. It's a bunch of political, bureaucratical stuff.
Ms. Cannon, that's why we have to get certified to understand what it is.
But that's what that's to do with.
I think
You're
the
following
piece for
all the
program-
federal policies and practices to, whenever you're employing people and hiring your contractors and engineers and people of that nature.
But if you'll walk back to the office with me, I will let you know what it is.
That's the LEMD.
Some assistance program.
Yeah, they all runs together.
It's Chairman Meeks' fault. He was one who brought this back from some meeting.
Yeah.
I make a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, to pay the bills, is there any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Do you hear a motion to approve the minutes?
As presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Does anybody have any other business that needs to come before this board at this time? If not, we do declare this meeting adjourned.